Hi, everyone. I'm Marty from Rolling Dice and Taking Names, and I am excited to have a couple guests on the show tonight to talk about one of my passions right now, which is Star Wars Unlimited. And I wanted to bring these guys on because they're extremely knowledgeable about this game, even more so than I am, because I'm still very much a dummy when it comes to this game, and I want to get their thoughts on some new cards that we're going to be showing in this video. So, right off the bat, from Unplayable, we got Jay. Thank you. No, I can't even talk right. Jay, thank you for coming on.
Of course, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the reach out here to be able to do some cross content. Now, real quick, I want to address. You said that we're highly knowledgeable on this. Me, yeah, maybe. Jack, that's a little bit of a questionable statement, but we'll let it slide.
There has been some bickering and bantering going between these two while the camera was not rolling, so
A
you're
lot of
probably going to
history.
hear that.
A lot of
Speaking of which, we also have Jack from Golden Dice Podcast. Jack, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, same thing. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on here. Always excited to do, cross content creator content and talk new cards. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So let me tell you what this is all about. So I have been a card player for many, many, many years, playing different competitive games and co-op games. And so I've been through the whole spoiler season with a lot of different cards.
Hmm.
But yet there are some times when I will look at a card and I'll go, that's not that great. But everybody else is going, this is the best card ever. And I'm like, what am I missing? Or I'll see something like, this card is really cool. And everybody else is like, it's not as good as this card. So I'm finding that I'm not as good as evaluating cards as other people are. So while the focus is on Star Wars Unlimited, the goal is to possibly give tips to the audience. It's like, hey, when you're presented a new card, you're going to look at abilities, its cost, how it compares with other cards, etc., in your evaluation of the worth of that card. But since we are talking about Star Wars Unlimited, the cards we're going to be talking about are cards from the game. And I'm excited, guys. I have two brand new cards
Let's
to show you
go.
from
Love
Jump
it.
to Lightspeed. Now, for the audience, these guys have not seen these cards yet. So we're going to get to catch them live reactions to seeing these cards. And I follow you guys I follow your content and I follow you on the social media, and I love hearing your thoughts on cards and analysis. So that's why I wanted to bring you on. And that's why I'm calling this Evaluating Star Wars Unlimited Cards for Dummies. I'm the dummy.
I love that. I
So,
love that. This actually comes full circle. It's really interesting because I was gonna say real quick is I used to I'm a big board gamer too. As you can see, I'm a big board gamer. Back in like 2016, 2017, I used to listen to the Dice Tower podcast, and I'm
mhm.
almost positive, or at least I think it was their podcast. Didn't you have a segment on their podcast at some point or something? Because I remember always hearing when rolling dice and taking names was like your slogan.
Yeah. So we have been on there in the past, doing several segments for the podcast or guest or something. So yes, we have.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
Tom kind of helped us. He springboarded us when we started about 12 years ago, adding us to the Dice Tower Network. So
That's awesome.
that's kind of yeah. Okay. So without further ado, because I know a lot of people
They're
are
ready for
excited
the
about
cards.
this,
They're waiting.
let's go ahead and let me get the card prepped. Again, I want to make sure I show this in the right order since you guys have not seen it yet. Okay, guys, we have two rares. Two
Ooh.
rares that we get to see tonight. So let's go ahead and show this first card. I'll show it, I'll read it as you guys digest it, and then we will talk about it. All right, here we go. No glory, only results. This is a vigilance villainous card, cost 5. The event is take control of a non-leader unit, then defeat it.
This seems insane right
Yeah.
off the bat. This seems so good. I love this card. I mean, Vanquish is already 5 cost.
Yeah.
Defeat a unit, and this is so
Is Vanquish 5 or 6?
That's
Vanquish
5.
is 5, and Rivals
Okay.
Fall is the
That's 6.
leader one,
Rivals
which
Fall
is
6. Yeah.
so for those of you who are reading this, and right off the bat you don't understand what's happening here, why would you take control of a non-leader unit and then defeat it? Does anybody have an idea of why you would do that?
Yes.
Let's hear
Listener
it,
here.
Jack.
You could use its when defeated if you take
Exactly.
control of it.
Yep. So you play your Ruthless Raider, You play this, I get to defeat it, and I get to do the 2 damage to a unit and 2 damage to a base. This
Yep.
seems insane. And it's a tactic, so you can fetch it with whatever fetching cards we have.
Is it just Steela Guerrera,
Maybe, but
which is hero? But yeah,
still possible.
uh, yeah. I mean, it's also, I mean, because it's in Vigilance Villainy, you have to look at Thrawn too. Vigilance Villainy, and Thrawn allows you to trigger a when defeated again. So if you're stealing something pretty crazy, like, I mean, there's a lot of good when defeated triggers
There is.
like already. I'm just thinking, top is like if I have a force user out too on my villain side and I steal like your Obi-Wan, defeat it, give 2 XP to one of my force units, and I draw a card and I take away your Sentinel, like there's definitely some really good value. And also it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's just taking really good value away from your opponent.
Yeah, I
Like it
mean,
would
even
feel so
like
bad just
K2SO against a like aggro deck that's trying to burn you down, and K2SO is one of their best cards to be able to deal 3 damage
Ooh, yeah.
unconditionally. It's like now I'm dealing 3 damage to your base, and it's essentially healing 3 damage while also defeating a unit. It's like, yeah, this card seems very strong to me, and ironically, it's good against Thrawn as well because they're gonna be playing a ton of when defeated.
Yeah, it's a good counter. Yeah.
So you want to play this as Thrawn, but you can also play it as a counter against Thrawn.
All right, so dummy audience coming in here right now. So does this replace? We talked about Rivals Fall, or what was the other
Vanquish.
mention? Vanquish. Does this? I mean, obviously Rivals Fall, I think's Vigilance only. This is villainous, so it had to be on the villainous side. Does this replace those cards in the decks for you, or does it in addition to those for removal?
If I'm playing villain blue, I'm playing this over Vanquish for sure. I don't think there's any world where you would ever play Vanquish and not play this, to be honest.
Even if you're not going against a bunch of when defeated cards.
Yeah, because it'll still have the same effect, but now you have a possible upside of triggering the when defeated.
Yeah.
So like Vanquish will never have that opportunity, but this will. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. That's fine. Then it's just the same as Vanquish.
And if there's ever any cards that give your other units when defeated abilities, I know there's already some with like the double green Krell, which isn't relevant for this, but like if we get more of the cards that are like give your other units when defeated, draw a card, give your other units when defeated, do this. You can trigger it with your opponent's units now by playing this. Yeah, so I don't see why you would ever play Vanquish over this in a blue villain card deck.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably just still, the question will be like Fell the Dragon, because Fell the Dragon's like a resource cheaper. And it's still really good removal. So it's like, to me, that's where the tension is. I agree with Jay, though, definitely. You run this over Vanquish, but the tension lies in like, do you still want 2 or 3 Fells? Do you still want like a Rival's Fall to deal with like big leaders and things like that?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow. All right. So it seems like you two were extremely impressed with this card. I mean, it's one of those things too. I had to process real quick when I saw it. So taking control of a leader for people that are watching doesn't mean you get to take control and actually use it. It's just you take control, it's immediately defeated, and it just goes away. Right. So it's not like you're going to get to use it in any way. It's just it's yours. It's gone. You can trigger the ability that's on it if there is one.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
Unless like there's some card that comes out that's like, don't defeat a unit or something. It's like when a unit would be defeated, instead defeat this unit, and then you can like take control of this and then kill the other thing and keep whatever you took control of. But I don't think none of that exists right now.
How do you feel about playing against cards like this and Vanquish and stuff when you're sitting there just puttering along and all of a sudden, oh yeah, that thing you just put out there, it's not there anymore.
It feels real bad, especially when they trigger your when defeated abilities.
You're like, how do I get back in this game? I get my 2 experience and a card draw from Obi, or I get my Ruthless Raider ping and whatnot. And then it's like, oh, not only did I not get that, my thing is now dead as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brutal.
All right. That's awesome. All right. So going to stop sharing that window, and we're going to move to the other rare. I'm going to tease it. It is a unit. This is all about vehicles and everything. So we got a brand new vehicle I'm going to share with you guys. And I think this is even going to have even more discussion. So here we go. This is Stolen AT Hauler, which is cunning, cost 3, a 4/5 underworld vehicle transport. When defeated, choose an opponent for this phase. They may play this unit from its owner's discard pile for free. Now, before you guys jump in, I'm going to tell you, as me as being the dummy, I immediately saw this and go, I don't get this at all. Why would I give this to my opponent just to play for free? So what's the upside of this?
Okay, one correction real quick before we evaluate it as well. This is a legendary. You did not get 2 rares. You got
Yeah,
a
you got a
rare and a
legendary, yep.
legendary.
I got a legendary. Wow.
So this is one of the big, however many we get. Like, I don't know how many did they say we're getting this set now?
We're up to
They
20
changed
now,
it.
up from
20?
16.
This is 1 out of 20 legendaries for the set. So this is very cool.
Yeah.
A 3 cost 4/5 is insane stats.
So is that what it is? It's just the cost and the stats you get from it, even knowing that your opponent's going to get this too?
Does it loop back and forth forever? So, like, say I play it, you end up defeating it, goes to my discard pile, you can play it for free. Then when I defeat it on your end, does it go to my discard pile and then I can now
Yeah.
play it for free?
That's how I'm reading it.
Because if that's the
Mhm.
case, like
Oh.
that constantly looping around is super interesting. And I mean, 4/5 alone on 3 in space is like kind
Very
of
strong.
insane. Because I mean, what are like the 3-drop power units we talk about are like 3/4s in
Millennium
space for
Falcon.
3? Yeah. And so this can kill a Falcon and live, still have 2 health
Yeah.
remaining stuff. So yeah, it's hard to say whether or not this will be like a staple, like 3 of in some decks, but it's definitely, I mean, 3 or 4/5 for 3. I'm just like interesting. And if I do get to play it again after I killed on your side, then that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
Well, so isn't this just going to be just a tit for tat the whole game if it's bouncing back and forth?
Seems that way.
Yeah.
You can try to manipulate it in such a way that you make sure it gets defeated when your opponent doesn't have the resources to play it, because it's only for this phase.
Yeah, it's for free though.
Oh, it is for free. You're right. You're right. That was my bad. It is Underworld though, which is cool. So it works with a lot of Underworld synergy.
Yeah, if you're Cad
Oh.
Bane and you're just like, oh, sure, you can get it, and then I'll steal back eventually, and then I'll play it again and ping you some more and stuff.
Right. I don't know. It is an interesting card. I don't know. I think it's good. I think this will be played. I think people will play this.
So let's say you're playing against the card that we just showed. And would you want to do that against this card, knowing that, okay, I just got it, defeated it, but I'm just giving it right back to you? I guess you wouldn't want to use it in that aspect.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
good example of where you would not want to play that previous card.
Yeah. Maybe now we go back to Vanquish if this is in the meta.
That's really interesting. This
Yeah.
is like the first one where it's like bad to play it. And then we do have the new Rio Durant. That's a pilot that cares about transports. That's pretty cool to see more transport synergy for him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he gets +1 on attack, right? If it's a transport, and this
Yep.
is a 3 cost, so it'll likely be out before he deploys at 5.
Yep. This
So
is
with
actually,
previous-
I think this is the ship that they fly in that movie to get the little thing off of the.
Looks like it,
Off
yeah,
the-
on the train heist,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
stolen,
Oh,
so I
yeah.
think it definitely is. That's what they're going for.
Makes sense. So in the last card, you said, hey, I don't see any reason not to use this card pretty much all the time. Is this more of a situational card?
This one, I would say I'm looking at it right now. I would definitely try this in all of my yellow decks.
Oh.
Yeah, I was gonna
Just-
say like week 1, this is probably a 3 of in most of my yellow decks, and
see how it goes.
yeah, and then just like play a bunch of games with it. And if you're like constantly like, man, every time I gave it to them, I didn't have a way to deal with it, because it is
Mhm.
interesting. Like normally, right? If I play a unit and then they play removal on it, they don't get to play a unit that turn, right? If we go into 4 resource turn and they use takedown on this, then typically that would be their turn. But now they get to play takedown and get a 4/5, which is just
feels
like
real bad.
yeah, it's like that sounds rough.
Yeah, I don't know how good it's gonna be, but it's one I'm definitely gonna try.
Yeah. Yeah. You just respond by playing takedown and then take it back, and then the entire turn for everybody was playing takedown and playing a stolen AT hauler.
That's hilarious.
So feel it's worthy of a legendary status?
I
It's an
think so.
interesting concept.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of legendaries haven't necessarily been based in power. A lot of them have been based in like kind of unique abilities.
Complexity.
And this, I mean, this definitely fits unique ability.
Yeah, very unique.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly complex. Uh, yeah, I think the stat. I mean, 4-5 in space on 3 is just super. Especially if you flip on 4 to pilot it. That seems pretty good.
Do we have any 4-cost pilots? I'm not sure.
Maybe not yet, but I feel like we will.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, because we get a 4 flip every set.
Yeah.
So in general, when y'all look at cards, obviously everything comes into play as far as the cost, the power, the health, etc. How mathematically are you working this out in your head? Oh, that's a good deal. That's too expensive. That doesn't seem priced right. I mean, is there a formula that you're using, or is it well, it would be maybe not priced right, except that ability takes it to the stratosphere or something like that.
So I think a big thing is comparing it to what exists already. So for example, if we have a 3-cost space unit, usually what we consider right now to be good 3-cost space units, stats wise, is 3-4. Like that's like the best that we get for 3 cost, unless you're playing the one that lets your opponent gain a resource. Corona Outlaw, it's like a
The 3-5.
3-5.
Yeah.
It's only 1 extra health, but it has this huge downside. So, which Outlaw Corona, ironically, is also one that you wouldn't want to steal and then win defeat, because now you're giving your opponent a resource. Uh, so seeing a 4-5 at 3, it's like, yeah, that's incredibly strong. But then you do get this when defeated that they basically get the speeder for free. So it's really with this one in particular. I think the experience of playing with it multiple times is gonna be a better judge of being able to evaluate its effectiveness. But also just like experience playing lots of games with lots of cards over time, you kind of get this gut feeling of when you see a card, you're like, oh, I know how you can use this, or I know these stats are really high for what it's costs. This ability would give you it costs 1, like pay 1, heal 3 is repair. So if anything in the future heals 3, like when played, heal 3, and it has stats of its cost compared to other cards, then it's costed less than what it's giving you, if that makes sense. So like if you have a 3-cost space unit that's a 3-4, but on play you're also healing 3 from your base, like that's really 4 resources worth of stuff when you compare it to repair. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, Jack?
I was gonna say the first thing that I do a lot of the times is I'll pull up like the database. I'll hit 3 costs and I'll check off space and I'll just kind of look and compare and like see all the other things. Yeah, 3-4 generally seems like the baseline of what you want. I mean, even last set we got the Republic Arc 170. That's just vanilla 3-4 Republic vehicle fighter. So then there's some good ones that are lower than that. Like Red 3 is a 2-3 with Raid 1, but then it buffs all your heroic stuff. Like Wing Leader obviously is a terrible unit in the sense of it's a 2-1, but it gives out 2 experience. So it's like you're kind of looking for things like that. You don't mind it being understated if it does something powerful. But then, yeah, if it's overstated, is the drawback, which this clearly is a 4 or 5 for 3, is the drawback bad enough to where you would never want to play it? And that's kind of something. And this one's so unique and new that it's hard to say, like right off the bat. Like Jay mentioned, Outlaw Corona, that's a 3-5 in space. That's pretty crazy stats, and it's a capital ship, which matters coming up, with some of the cards we're getting. But its bounty just ramping your opponent is just so bad in that it's so far has not been worth playing it despite its stellar stats.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So any other tips or anything that you want to give me, you give the audience of like, okay, I just saw this card. Obviously, you guys went through some of that. I mean, do you immediately see a card like this and you go, okay, here's the uses it's I'm immediately going to have for it. I want to stick it in this deck. It's really interesting that the first card, you guys immediately saw, oh, perfect. I know exactly how to use this. I know the deck I'm going to go in. And then with this card, it's like, that is really cool. I'm really curious to see how it works. So it's one of those, I guess it's a trial and error. Some things you can feel good about. That's a replacement for this. This one is like, I just need to see how this really works in action.
Yeah, so I think the first one, it's so blatantly obvious that it works well with someone like Thrawn because his whole thing is win defeated. So you're gonna put a win defeated card that synergizes with win defeated stuff into his deck. Um, Whereas this one is a lot less obvious. It's a lot more you kind of gotta see it in action. Now, so tips that you did ask for tips as well. For example, if a card says when played, usually that's pretty good. When played in general means you're getting some benefit out of it before it gets defeated. So you're getting immediate impact. And that's almost always I think that's just trivially true in all card games is that when played abilities are typically known as like this is what you want. So if something says when played, it's great. The other thing that you kind of have to take into account is the synergies that already exist. So we know Rebel is a super powerful aggro tool for heroes. So whenever a new hero Rebel comes out, we're gonna evaluate it within the sense of putting it into a deck that synergizes with Rebel cards. So being able to understand which synergies exist in the meta that are actually are already proven and being able to take the card, for example, this stolen AT hauler. It's like me and Jack, we immediately were like, oh, Cad Bane, because Cad Bane works well with Underworld, and it's proven that he's a pretty decent deck that works well with Underworld synergy. So you kind of have to take some of that stuff into account as well, which is a little bit harder to do because if you don't have the time to keep up with the meta, you kind of uh, lose sight or track of that kind of stuff. But um, that's what I would say. Jack, what about you?
Yeah, I was gonna say you want to look at the colors that they're within as well. Blue just likes to play good removal most of the time. So that first one immediately, it's like this fits the plan that this color, like villain blue, likes to do. It makes sense. It has a good ability. And then now going in yellow, I mean, there is some interesting things about it too, in a sense that like you could play cards that gain you an advantage already and actually like give you this back, because if you were to return this to the hand, it would go back to your hand, not your opponent's. So
Mhm.
for example, if you play this, maybe the next round you have 4 resources, you surprise strike and you hit their base for 7 with this, and then you play like a 2-drop. Then you go into the 5 resource round, maybe you're double yellow, you play Cantina Bouncer and you bounce it, and then you get it back into your hand to give you options to play it again. So to me, I'm like just trying to think. Yellow likes to almost do kind of like tempo plays where they'll sacrifice their long-term advantage in a game to gain short-term gains to close it out before that sacrificed long-term comes back to bite them.
Mhm.
And so this certainly could be one of those cards, right? Yellow does that all the time, and this is just another example of that. Like, can they swing with this twice and do 8 damage to your base before they kill it and get it for their own? And then they could even pivot ground and to where they don't really care that you're hitting them for a 4 or 5 in space. So that's kind of where my mind started to think too. I was like, man, if I like play this, get 8 damage out of it, and then Cantina Bouncer feels a little worse, but even something like Enfys Nest, she has 5 power, so she could return this to hand for her when played. Like Jay was talking about, when played being really good as well. So that's
Mhm.
kind of where my mind starts to go of like, okay, can I play this? Can I get some hits? And then can I do something to get it back into my hand that is a little bit more efficient than paying removal to defeat it?
Right. And of course, also, I guess it's one of those things too that depending on how the particular round is going, if your opponent, takes initiative or something, and this guy's still standing up there, you could just run it into somebody and defeat it, and then they won't get to trigger it because they won't have time to pull it out and play it too.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, if you can set this up to where they had to early claim and then you can kill this thing then, that'll be great.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Well, guys, this has been absolutely amazing. I love just sitting back, listen to you guys talking. It's like, interesting, interesting, and just see how your minds kind of work through this whole process. And that's why I really appreciate what you guys do for this community. I think it's really cool, the insights that you give. And before we even started recording, uh, Jack, you were asking me, "Hey, you playing any PQs?" And it's like, see, that's the thing. I love this game. I love getting to my local game store and just playing in some casual tournaments. But I'm not going to be the one that's really going to spend so much time getting into the really competitive scene just because I got so much other stuff going on. But I want to be knowledgeable enough that when I go to my tournament, it's like, oh, okay, I kind of know what to do this. And I just saw this card and I want to be able to do this and do that with it without having to invest, many hours of playing in heavily competitive spaces to get to that point, which is why I'm the dummy sitting here, and I'm just trying to learn from you guys who have probably put in way more hours than I have to it. So I really appreciate you sitting down with me and doing this. And I teased too about possibly having you guys back on in the future if you want to do like a deck building for dummies for guys like me too. To kind of sit down and it's like, all right, where do you start? You have an idea. Where do you go from there?
I don't know, but I know how you end, and you take the deck and you put it in the trash can. That's how.
Maybe if Jay gets too much input on it, but we'll figure something out good. But
so go ahead.
I was even going to say, Marty, you're selling yourself short a little bit because when you talked about this being a, Star Wars Unlimited for dummies, I thought me and you were here to teach Jay how to play the game. So that was my assumption going into this.
Perfect.
Y'all are fun at parties. Yeah, he's talking about, I put a deck together and I went to a competitive event yesterday, went 0-2, immediately came home, took the deck out, started unsleeving it and putting it back. It's like, all right, that didn't work.
That's funny. Yeah, we've all had those moments.
So anyway, so before we get out of here, I want to hear where people can find you. Let everybody know where they can go find you, your channels, your social medias, etc. So Jay, we'll start with you.
Okay, yeah. You can find me at Unplayable. It's on YouTube, and then on X, you can find me as Jay Unplayable.
All right, and Jack.
Yeah, the one who goes second is greater, and we are Golden Dice. Just kidding, of course. We love Jay and Unplayable. That's why I bust. Golden Dice Podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then we're also on X and Blue Sky and Facebook and all those places to keep you guys up to date of what we're doing and try to keep everybody updated on the things going on in the SWOOD universe.
And for those who are watching, look, tell me what your thoughts are on this card. When you first saw these cards, what were your immediate thoughts? What's some ideas that maybe we didn't bring up? Let me know in the comments. And if you like what you saw, please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.